And how many times does this have to happen before we say there's something deeply wrong here? There's something that we have crossed a Rubicon, and now we have a problem that we have to face up to. I think we've been there for a while. I think this just solidifies that.
We are following in real time an awful story out of Minneapolis. I want to update you in the event that you have not heard. A shooting at a Minneapolis Catholic church has sent two people have been killed, an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old, and four, we don't know their ages, we don't know the details, according to a Minneapolis area emergency room, have had to have emergency surgery. We don't know if those are adults. We know 9 kids went to the hospital. We don't know if it were 2 adults. We don't know exactly who had the surgeries and what their latest outcome is likely to be. But if you can pray for them, that certainly would be important and worthy to do here. Now, as we went to break, I said a lot of details about the shooter is now emerging. This is feeling very similar to the Covenant School shooting that many of you will remember in my hometown of Nashville, Tennessee. What happened at the Covenant School shooting was a trans individual went in angry at the world, angry at the church, and shot up the place. There was a manifesto associated with it. That manifesto was buried for a very long time. And if you don't want to call it a manifesto, it was a series of journal writings. Most people still don't know what happened there because almost immediately, much of the media just stopped covering who the shooter was. As more of these details come out, this shooter appears to have posted multiple videos on YouTube. And among the details are a photo of Jesus as a target, a gun with "Kill Donald Trump" written on the side of it, a endorsement of trans ideologies. This appears to have been a man potentially trying to identify as a woman. And I believe more details will be coming out about this. And again, 2 young kids, an 8 and a 10-year-old, killed, and 4 needing surgery rushed to the emergency room. I believe where we should be having a conversation here is the trans community is overwhelmingly, if you look at how tiny their percentage is, engaged in many different violent acts out there. And a lot of people are going to never hear the details that we just shared with you. A lot of people never heard the details about the Covenant School shooting that we have shared with you on this program. Because, again, it's not the right kind of person doing the shooting for the left and much of the media. And again, on the ammunition clip, written is, "Where is your God?" On the gun itself, "Kill Donald Trump." A target with Jesus's head in where the head is of a target, and "Do you believe in God?" ? Written on the weapon as well. So, it's pretty awful, and obviously something that has now become far too common when it comes to the trans shooting community. And Buck, I honestly think that we should be having a conversation about the drugs that we're putting these young people on. We know that the trans shooter at Covenant School was all meted up with crazy amounts of hormones and everything else. I think it will come out that there were other aspects of medication that likely were involved in this shooter as well. And this feels to me like something that a rational, reasonable society should be talking about in earnest now, with it becoming, unfortunately, far too common.
Well, let's think this through for a moment, because there's substantial evidence now that this is a white, left-wing, anti-Trump, trans Antifa like ideology we're dealing with here. And it's not the first time. It's very similar to what we saw in the Covenant school shooting. And there have been other trans shooters as well. And one thing that is commonplace among these, and this is terrorism. This is a trans terrorist. Okay. That is what happened here. This is somebody killing for political and ideological reasons. So don't let them drop. There are two words they're going to want to drop from this discussion immediately: trans and terrorist. And those are the two central words in this. This was because it's not about the person being trans per se. It's about somebody who is pursuing an ideology that is unfortunately rammed down everybody's throats by a lot of institutions now, that being trans is central to your identity, that it is immutable, even though, of course, it is based on a mutable transition, right? But that this is intrinsic to who you are. Anybody who opposes this, say like the Catholic Church, which does not support. Now, the Catholic Church would tell you love trans people, support trans people, help trans people, all of which is true, all of which is moral, and on other churches as well. Although some churches, I think, go so far as to say that actually the trans thing should be celebrated for what it is. That is a different thing. I'm saying the Catholic Church says hug, love, support, be good to trans individuals. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to play along with the delusion. That doesn't mean that you have to say that you don't need help. And what we're seeing here, Clay, is a society that aspects of it, at least, corporate, major corporations, the academy, meaning colleges, universities, and schools, all the way down to a very low level, they have been pushing this ideology for a long time. And now that ideology, now that belief system of trans is central to identity is coming up against its first real moment of reckoning. People are finally saying no. And what they did with this for a long time was it's about just be tolerant of it. And people like you and me and others go tolerant of it. Of course, we love trans people as people. We treat they are our brothers or sisters in the in the most general sense. They're fellow human beings. Even Trump said this yesterday, right? Trump said,
Yes.
"Yeah, I love trans people, but I can't have 7-foot dudes playing against women." Now that's in the sports context. You can love a trans person as a human being and treat them with dignity and kindness and respect, while also saying, "We need to get you help. You're not actually a woman. It's not actually true. You should get assistance. You should get therapy. You should seek the attention of people who can help you work through this." What we have instead is half of society telling them this is essential to who you are. Anybody who challenges or questions this, right? They're always going to want to conflate these things. Challenging or questioning someone's trans identity does not mean saying, hateful things, hurting someone, refusing to hire someone, doing any of that. That's not what it is. What it is living in reality. Okay, those other things are bad and nobody should do those things to any person. But what you see here is a society, Clay, where there's a massive schism, where half the country is telling people like this individual, this is something to be celebrated. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. You are whatever you say you are. And therefore, what are those institutions, Clay, and what are those individuals who say, "I'm sorry, I still love you as a person, but what you are doing is not truth. You are not living in truth. And I cannot go along with the lie. I will not live by lies. I will still love you as my fellow brother or sister human being. I will still care for you. I want what's best for you, but I will not live by your lie." Clay, people who are already clearly emotionally unstable, who already have problems, they're being given these two very different messages. And how many times does this have to happen before we say there's something deeply wrong here? There's something that we have crossed a Rubicon, and now we have a problem that we have to face up to. I think we've been there for a while. I think this just solidifies that.
Yeah, and I think you brought it home for me because I hadn't really spent much time on this. The trans and I really looked into it aggressively after the Covenant school shooting, which happened in my hometown of Nashville. They believe that if you try to stop children from being trans, that you are committing genocide.
Genocide, correct. Very important to bring this up.
And if you believe that you're having genocide committed against you, then all acts of violence in that perverted and twisted worldview are justified because you believe that your very essence is being targeted. Then you tie in all of these other different toxic stews. Buck, also on the gun that this individual used to shoot up the Catholic school. I'm looking at photos online as we're talking. Written, 6 million wasn't enough. And all sorts of anti-Jewish sentiments as well.
Can I just say something, Clay? There's also in Russian written on the gun for anyone, because this reminds me of when I used to go on CNN and have these debates whenever it was a jihadist terrorist who have been relatively quiet in this country for a while now. They'd say, "How are you using that term?" I just said, "This is a trans terrorist." Do you know what was written on the gun in Russian? I'm a terrorist. So I'm just wondering, do any left wingers want to debate me on this one now? My analysis led me to this is an act of terror, and this person is saying I am a terrorist. The person who did it. I think we should listen. I think that that's pretty clear.
Burn Israel, also written on the gun. I mean, this entire weapon that he used to kill innocent kids is populated with left wing ideology. And this wedding of the left to the trans community is creating, I think, a toxic worldview. And you really brought it home, because when you think to yourself, they have convinced these people that if you aren't giving a 12-year-old puberty blockers, you are committing genocide against the trans community. They are willing to act out as terrorists as a
Yes.
result. They think that they're in some way morally justified in their perverted minds to do this.
Here's where this really comes together, everybody, and we just have to be honest about this all with each other. If um if trying to, again, like I said, doing so with love, doing so with support, doing so with kindness in your heart, but if refusing to affirm the trans identity of an individual, and more specifically, as Clay raises, if refusing to allow a 12-year-old to take puberty blockers and have a, breast removal, or, they call it upper or bottom, top or bottom surgery, if you or an institution are the moral equivalent of a Nazi because you are erasing people and committing genocide for doing so, of course there will be people who say, well, whatever institution is standing in that way must be evil. And they have it exactly backwards. And so, why are Catholic churches and why are Catholic children being, because this is an individual who had, through extreme left-wing belief that unfortunately is far, the belief is far more prevalent in this country than the violence is, but that's always the case. This is the case in jihadism and Islamism and around the world with that too. There's the belief, and then there are those who act on the belief. These radical left-wing beliefs have been mainstreamed, have been supported throughout society, have been supported by corporations, by the Democrat Party, by the media. And now we are paying a price as a society for this, because people have been convinced that what is beautiful and good and decent and moral and righteous in our society is actually the source of evil. And that is why they're shooting up children in a Catholic church. And it is not the first time. And tragically, I don't think it will be the last time. And it is time we looked at this. Clay, I just tweeted this so people know I believe this. If we as a society decided that the great civil rights struggle of our time was elevating people with extreme schizophrenia. Now, I know schizophrenia is on a spectrum. I know people have had schizophrenia. I have very close friends who have had schizophrenia. I'm not maligning anybody for any mental health illness, mental health. Everybody has mental health struggles, but I'm saying extreme schizophrenia is both crippling and pretty frightening to people who have to deal with it. If we elevated that as a beautiful thing that everybody must celebrate, cannot question, say, to suggest that you should get treatment for this, Clay, is evil. To suggest treatment for it is evil. If we did that, terrible things would happen in this country. We have done that. It's just not with schizophrenia. And now we are seeing the outcome. And now we are seeing the reality of this. And I think everyone needs to be very clear on it.
I think that's well said. And we're going to continue. We'll take some of your talkbacks as more of these details are coming out. Again, I would expect that you will see a lot of left-wing organizations start to back away, because this is becoming very much of a trend, unfortunately. And look, I hated to say it, 6 million wasn't enough. Kill Israel, written on the gun of this person who attacked a Catholic church this morning. Anti-Semitism has skyrocketed. There are way too many people out there that are attacking people for being Jewish all around the world, but certainly in our country and certainly in Israel itself. And that's what the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews is trying to do. Israel's not an easy place to live, particularly for the elderly, thousands of families that have lost their homes because of missile attacks. A donation you make to the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, I mean, this killer went after Christians and he wanted to go after Jews too. This is awful. This is what the IFCJ is trying to do, bring people who are Christians and Jews, good, decent people, to try to stop mass attacks on innocent people. And now's your time to help. To rush your gift, you can call 888-488-IFCJ. You can also go online at ifcj.org. That's ifcj.org.